Tonight, a suspicious blaze completely destroys a Port Pirie house, leaving a hefty damage bill. And Port Lincoln McDonald's celebrates its 10th birthday in true American style, all for a good cause.
This is Southern Cross News with Fraser Goldsworthy.
Good evening. A fire which gutted a vacant Port Pirie home overnight is being treated as suspicious after leaving a damage bill of $300,000. Neighbours say they heard noises before the blaze broke out.
This is what's left of a Magor Road property. Neighbours called 000 just before 4 this morning, but by the time fire crews arrived, the house was already fully alight, with flames bursting out one of the front windows.
An oxygen starved, so which means that it had been enclosed. As soon as we opened the door, the oxygen obviously was entered and the fire intensity increased quite substantially.
Nearby residents were evacuated with smoke impinging on their houses.
There was a house quite close on the left-hand side which didn't really receive any damage, and that neighbour actually was fighting the fire with a garden hose.
Fire cause investigators were forced to wear protective apparatus, with fears there may be asbestos contamination, spending the day with local police combing the scene for clues to try and determine the cause of the fire.
Being treated suspicious because neighbours heard someone on the property just prior to the fire starting, and there were a few other indicators as well.
The damage bill is estimated at $300,000, with the MFS declaring the house completely destroyed.
The house would be completely demolished. There's really not too much left to save. It was vacant at the time.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
A spate of building fires across the region this winter has prompted concerned country and metropolitan firefighters to join forces. They say with more public awareness around fire safety, some of the blazes could have been prevented.
Two firefighting crews, side by side for a common cause. The Country Fire Service and their metropolitan counterparts uniting to get the message out about winter fire safety.
Yeah, it's just one of those things where the home occupier and the home owners need to take a little bit of responsibility.
A recent surge in the number of building fires has alarmed firefighters. Over the last month, they've responded to 13 blazes in homes across the far north region,
which has raised a bit of a concern around home fire safety and maybe the complacency.
Many of the blazes have been sparked by heating appliances left unattended, such as electric blankets, heaters and wood fires.
With the heating appliances and the creature comforts, I suppose you could call them, you need to treat them with the respect that they deserve.
And don't underestimate the role curious young hands play in fires.
Keeping those ignition sources well out of reach when you're not around.
Similar to rural properties having a bushfire plan in the summer, these fire services want to emphasise the importance of having a practice home fire safety plan with escape exits, as well as working smoke alarms, which are crucial in recognising a problem before it's too late.
Every second counts in a fire, so having a working smoke alarm that activates on that early stages of fire to give people the best opportunity to get out of the house.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Police are on the hunt for a female who allegedly robbed an 88-year-old woman outside her home on Garnett Street in Broken Hill on Monday. The elderly woman was sitting on her walking frame when the female reportedly reached into her bag and stole cash from her purse. The woman tried to stop the female but was unsuccessful. She's described as Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander appearance, around 150 centimetres tall and wearing a pink hooded top. Concerns have been raised regarding the safety of new overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta. Both Eddie Hughes and Rowan Ramsey are seeking answers from the Transport Department, claiming motorists have contacted their officers regarding the state of the new lanes.
After years of planning and construction, overtaking lanes between Whyalla and Port Augusta are finally operational. However, weeks into their opening, they're under scrutiny. Member for Giles Eddie Hughes says he's received calls from motorists concerned about the roughness of the road surface and potholes.
Motorbike rider, especially at night, wants to hit one of these patches. He had a real fear that that person would be seriously injured or killed.
Furthermore, Mr. Hughes says concerns were raised regarding the join between the old road and the new surface.
What I've been told is almost a gutter or a gouge.
Southern Cross News, which has also received complaints, visited the scene. And though there were signs of potholes, they'd been filled in, while there was a mark between the two lanes. Member for Grey, Rowan Ramsey says it needs to be taken care of.
I can understand how it might cause an issue. My point is now I think we need a professional to make some kind of assessment.
Both have spoken with State Transport Minister Stephen Cannell, asking for an assessment from department officials.
Contractors are paid to present a finished product, and I think there should be an assessment.
And if it hasn't been done properly, at no cost to the public, remediation happens.
John Hunt, Southern Cross News.
The Marshall government has already announced its move to waive the lease fees to the region's oyster growers, but there seems to be some confusion over who committed to providing the financial assistance first.
Fighting over claims of who provided financial assistance to the oyster industry. Earlier in the week, Minister for Primary Industries Tim Whetstone announced the Marshall government was now stepping in and would waive almost $800,000 in fees per year over the next 2 financial years. But it's taken the Labor government by surprise.
It was a bit of a cheeky announcement by the Primary Industries Minister Tim Whetstone there, badging the assistance for the oyster industry as an initiative of the Marshall government.
Mr Hughes claims the Labor government first announced the assistance back in February.
It was an initiative of the previous Labor government. We committed $1.6 million in fee relief for oyster growers.
But Tim Whetstone questions the validity of the claim.
I am somewhat concerned that the Shadow Minister has misguided people in saying that they had money there assigned for the industry, where in actual fact there was no money assigned to the budget.
Suggesting it was nothing more than an election move.
Eddie Hughes has got some form here. It was a February announcement, 2 minutes to midnight on the eve of the election.
Mr Whetstone ensuring there will be ongoing support for the state's oyster industry dealing with the impact of the POMS virus.
To make sure that they have good spat production and so that they have a bright future once we get the sustainable yields back.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
Still to come tonight, Port Lincoln McDonald's marks a major milestone with an American flavour to help sick kids. Port Pirie Regional Council has adopted its new 3-year business plan and budget. Residential ratepayers can expect to see a rate increase of nearly 5%, while there's more bad news for the region's farmers.
It's an increase of 90 cents per week for residential ratepayers.
Revenue for this year is 4.7% on the previous year, which falls underneath our 5% long-term financial plans.
Major shopping centres in Port Pirie will see a price hike of around 7.1%, but it's bad news for farmers.
The big increases across the primary production farming area of around about 10.4%, so that once that all balances out, we have around about 4.7% rise on average.
Primary producers are now calling on the council to lower the rate increase.
Primary producers believe that their rate is quite significantly higher than the rest of the rate payers in our district, and want us to review that in 2018-19.
The surplus will be put towards road and footpath upgrades, as well as the completion of the sporting precinct.
Funds of around $9.2 million for capital expenditure.
Council says the rate increase comes with previously low rates affecting their ability to complete some much needed upgrades around the region.
Pirie Regional Council rate revenue was well below the state average, which basically hindered us from being able to fund projects.
Rachel Nell, Southern Cross News.
Port Lincoln McDonald's has celebrated its 10th birthday in true American style. The festivities raising much needed funds for Ronald McDonald House.
It was an emotional night for the family that built the local McDonald's from the ground up.
Great to have the turnout we've got, and really proud of what we've achieved in 10 years, and to have this many people here tonight helping us celebrate is really special.
I was surprised myself even seeing Tony so emotional up there, but I think it's because it's part of the community.
With the anniversary of the McDonald's birthday falling on the 4th of July, it was only fitting to have an American theme, with even the president in attendance. But it was all for a good cause, raising much needed funds for Ronald McDonald House.
The committee members, the volunteers of all the clubs and organisations that have turned out in great numbers to help us celebrate and help us raise money for our Ride for Sick kids, so it's been fantastic.
The funds will go toward helping locals be part of the Ride for Sick Kids campaign, with one rider knowing full well the benefits of Ronald McDonald House.
10 years ago, my daughter was diagnosed with cancer, so she and my wife spent about 12 months there, and then returning the year after that with, follow-up checks and that sort of thing.
With hotly contested bidding during the auctions, guests emptied their pockets to a total of $18,400 raised on the night.
Really makes a big contribution to keeping families close to their sick children while they're getting the important treatment back in Adelaide.
Casey Trelaw, Southern Cross News.
A Broken Hill motel has been named a finalist for this year's Country and Outback Regional Tourism Awards. The Outback Lodge Motel is one of 3 local organisations to receive the honour. LD Station and Outback Astronomy are also in the mix. The awards ceremony will be held at the end of the month in Orange in New South Wales Central West. Well, there's been reports of bombs being found around Broken Hill this week, but thankfully they're not dangerous. It's part of a reading initiative set up by a local bookshop.
Suspicious but non-lethal packages hiding in plain sight.
So the idea is that we get books and we're wrapping them up and we're putting them around town for people to find.
It's called book bombing. Different kinds of books are wrapped up and hidden in public places like parks, cafes and tourist attractions for people to open and read.
Oh, it's been happening in some of the big cities and it's something that we heard about, and one of the volunteers here, Naomi, thought that we should give it a go, and we thought it was a great idea.
There's an abundance of books at Under the Silver Tree bookshop. So far 25 book bombs have been planted around the town. They include adult and children's fiction and non-fiction.
It's also to encourage people to maybe read something that they wouldn't normally read. So, people who might love romance, like they might find a thriller and give it a go, for example.
A team of volunteers helped put the book bombs together as a way of giving back to the community.
Oh, look, we'd love for them to pass them on to someone else who might like to read them. People are always welcome to give them back to us and we can re-bomb them as well if that's what people would like to do as well.
Patrick Rowanke, Southern Cross News.
A record number of swimmers have taken to the pool at the Broken Hill Aquatic Centre over the past year. The complex saw close to 150,000 visits and a surge in enrolments for its Learn to Swim program.
We encourage locals to get down here more often and be more active. Obviously there's so many benefits to swimming and water safety, particularly for young children, so we encourage locals to get behind it.
Mr Simmons says there are plenty of future upgrades planned for the centre. Still to come tonight, a Story a Day program to encourage local kids to get into reading. That's next. Children from the Stirling North Community Centre have wrapped up their term-long Story a Day program, which encourages kids to read as much as possible. The centre held a special book presentation with each child receiving an award with the amount of books they've read, with some totals in the hundreds.
Gathering together to celebrate their reading efforts. And it was a big effort. Nearly 4,000 books were read over the term-long Story a Day program.
It's all about getting those skills before they actually start reading at school next year.
The Childhood Centre noticed a gap in the reading and communication abilities of their preschoolers and started the program to increase the amount of reading both inside the classroom and at home. And the response has been overwhelming.
We read 210 books, and that's just what we recorded, what we read before bedtimes.
Alyssa and her daughter Mahala read the most books out of everyone in the class.
We read Harry McClary, we read Spot, we read a huge variety.
Teachers say after just a few months of reading, some students have improved out of sight.
Over the term of the program, we've actually noticed the sentence structure has got longer. They're using more complex sentences and full sentences.
And the experience has also been a learning curve for the parents.
I think when they realise how important stories are and books are to children, they actually see the impact over time.
Garth Burley, Southern Cross News.
Time now for this week's fishing tips.
Welcome another week around the Gulf Fishing Tips from Port Pirie. It's the best time in the world to be fishing at the moment. There's King George whiting, there's pan-sized snapper, there's salmon floating around the place, and still plenty of squid. We can't tell you exactly where. The closest examination of where to go is between Port Broughton and Maroona Island. I think you'll catch yourself a good feed of fish, so have a good crack.
G'day and welcome to this week's Fishing Tips from Port Augusta, Jewel of the North. Well, it's been a bit crazy with the wind at the moment, very consistent. The good tip here when that wind comes in, try the shallow banks on the incoming tide in the afternoon for silver whiting and also garfish at night. Squid still along the jetties in front of the shacks. There's been a few reports of snapper on the shallower grounds. That's all we have from the Jewel of the North.
G'day and welcome to Fishing Tips in Port Lincoln. Well, squid have dominated the news over the past week. Once again, up along the North Shore, down into the proper and out around Boston Island are holding some good patches of squid. Whiting reports have been pretty patchy from around the bay itself. Some better catches have come from Carcass, Taylor's Landing and also down around Thistle. Further down the passage and out around Williams Island, there have been some Samson fish caught down their way lately. In the bay system of Coffins, there have been some gummy sharks caught over the last week or two, so that's worthwhile checking out as well. And lastly, moving up the coast to Venus Bay, the whiting continue to bite really well up there, and there's also some salmon trout and a few trevally. And that's it for this week. We'll see you again with more fishing tips next week.
Stay with us. After the break, we'll have all the local weather details. And Amy, it was a wet day around some parts of the region.
Yes, that's right. Some areas did see some showers and the wet weather is going to hang around into the weekend. All the details are next. Welcome back. A change arrived in some centres today. Port Lincoln saw some showers, 18 the top there. A cloudy 21 in Whyalla, while Port Augusta was lucky enough to see some sunshine and reaching a high of 24 degrees. Checking the satellite, and cloud across the south with a cold front will bring patchy light rain. Skies are keeping clearer elsewhere thanks to a ridge of high pressure. If you're heading out to be on the waters tomorrow, westerly winds are shifting northwesterly up to 30 knots, with seas reaching 1 metre. Sunrise is at 25 past 7, while it will set at 5:22. With the weekend upon us, showers are going to hang around, with temperatures dropping slightly after a warm few days. Fine in Port Augusta and Whyalla, with maximums reaching the high teens. Showers for Port Lincoln, Clare and Kadina. Showers in Port Lincoln will clear by Saturday, with cloud extending into the new working week. Skies will clear on Monday with a high of 14 in Cleve, while Woodnall will experience a mostly sunny weekend at 16 degrees. A fine few days in Whyalla, with temperatures sitting at 15 on Monday. Fine also for Port Augusta, while cloudy skies will clear in Kadina by the end of the weekend for a mostly sunny start to the new week. Despite some showers predicted for Port Pirie, conditions will fine up leading into Monday. Clare is also going to have fine weather, with temperatures remaining low at 12 degrees. And in Broken Hill, maximums will also remain low. However, it's going to be mostly sunny conditions. So Fraser, despite the cooler temperatures, it's looking like a mostly fine weekend around the region.
Thanks, Amy. And that's all from the team this Thursday. Thanks for your company. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.